If you're a first-time buyer, probably you're feeling that you actually can't afford to buy anywhere. I believe that you can afford to buy something somewhere in the country, but you just might not know where that place is right now. And it might not be right next to your parents or right next to your mates, but there's usually somewhere in the country that you can buy. Before you start that process though, the first thing understanding where you can afford to buy and what you can afford is to understand your finances. That doesn't just mean going online and putting a few numbers into an internet site and saying, oh, you can have £150,000. You really need to go and see a broker who needs to go through your finances, and ideally an independent financial advisor that can actually go through all of your wealth and actually make sure that all of your finances, not just your buying a house finances, are looked after. Once you have a very good idea of what you can actually afford, you also need to bear in mind that there are quite a lot of costs in the buying process. Good rule of thumb is if you're buying a home for the first time, it'll probably cost you anything from about 1 to 2% of that buying price. So if it's £100,000, it'll cost you between £1,000 and £2,000 to buy the property. And then you've got your deposit on top, of course. So now that you've got a good idea of exactly how much money you've got to spend, typically, most people commute to their work in about 30 minutes or 60 minutes. If you're in London, so you're in a big city, that might even stretch to 90 minutes. So suddenly, all the areas that you can actually look at and to buy, there's probably quite a lot of them. If you're in a city, 30, 60-minute commute will actually give you about 100 areas to search. So once you've worked out, and you might go by train or you might drive, literally get a map out. Or go online, you can go onto Google and you can go onto their maps and you can do the search and you can see how long it takes you to get from one place to that work. What you can then do is you can then list all of those places within that 30 to 60-minute commute. And you can go onto one of the property portals, there's loads of them like Rightmove, Zoopla, Find a Property, lots of them exist, and actually start putting in the price that you can afford. So say it's £150,000, put that as your maximum and look at each of those areas to find out what you can afford. And what you'll find is that in more expensive areas, that £150,000 might only buy you a one-bedroom flat. You might not be able to afford anything there, but somewhere else, it might actually afford 3 bedrooms, for example. At the end of the day, I'm pretty confident you'll be able to afford to buy somewhere, but it might not be the perfect place the first time round. But none of us did. I didn't buy in the place that I wanted to in the first time. When I was a first-time buyer, I had to go somewhere that was okay, but it wasn't as nice as I live now. So understand that when you're looking for a place to afford, it might not be the best place and it might not be the best property, but if it's what you want, then you can go ahead and afford to buy it, and then you can trade up the ladder and go to nicer places and nicer properties over time. At the end of the day, you will always compromise on space versus location. So as I say, that £150,000 might buy you that one-bedroom property in one place, or it might buy you a 3-bed in another. It's down to you to decide which is your preference. So I hope you can find somewhere that you can afford. If you can't, if you're stuck, just contact us and we'll give you some help.